Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fabulous episode of the Healthcare Trailblazers podcast. Excited to be sitting here today with someone that I got to know briefly. This is Ardy from Seekster. Ardy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Mendel, it's a pleasure to see you again and be on your fabulous show. What a great day to spend with you. Thank you so much.
So let's take a little trip down memory lane. Tell me, where'd you grow up and how'd you get involved in healthcare?
Yeah, so I was so lucky to land in San Diego, California when I was young. And, at that time, I remember walking the streets of Prospect, which most people in San Diego, or if you visited La Jolla, and I saw and felt the abundance of opportunity overlooking the Torrey Pines cliffs and 71 miles of beaches, right? It was opportunity at its finest, number one. Number two, there are all these amazing biotech and pharma companies that sat, across University of California, San Diego, UCSD, the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. At that time, it was the Burnham Cancer Institute and the Scripps Institute. So many different amazing institutions that were, influenced by science. And I guess scientists and medical folks were always attracted by the coast for some reason. And at a young age, I didn't really understand why. But now as an adult, I understand, I think, because we want to be close to where life is. And there's no better life than living by the coasts.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, and I love cities. I travel, all over the world, as you know, giving talks about health data, digital health, patient centricity, clinical trials, how Seekster has helped so many different patients all around the world. And I love cities. I'm a city slicker myself. But there's just something about being close to water and seeing, not Catalina Island from La Jolla on a clear day, but having the vision of seeing Tokyo, Japan. And, it takes a certain type of person to have both vision and mission. A lot of people had the opportunity to grow up, a lot of my friends and family, in San Francisco, which is another amazing city in America. But San Diego was like America's best kept secret. Now it's not. After the pandemic, I feel like everyone from the Bay Area and Boston and, Wisconsin have been moving down to San Diego, even though California has its own problems. But San Diego is definitely a special place because of the, close proximity to the institutions that are driving both research and science, and as well as the educational system down in Southern California that's, attracting the brightest minds and professors. We have some of the best hospitals in the world here. And everyone loves the beach. It gives it this calm atmosphere for someone like me that has super ADHD to, not die by the age of 30.
That's great. So, it's funny because in some areas, I feel like it maybe has the opposite effect, that calming, I see this in Florida a lot where it seems like even the 20-year-olds are retired already. They've got that retired energy. You definitely don't have retired energy. Do you see that? Do you see that opposite effect happen to people over there, or is it all clarity and vision?
So, this may, get some backfire for what I'm saying, but definitely if you're in Southern California, we get the stereotype of having some sand in our ear, right? And what I mean by that is, you're right. I'm a pretty intense individual and I had, a pretty hard upbringing. And so I appreciate, what America has been able to do for me and my family, number one. Number two, I was blessed to be able to be raised in San Diego and be around the great ecosystem of biology. And I would say number three, I got a little bit of New York City in me. right? And when I was in graduate school for my MBA, my tagline, we had to come up with a tagline. My tagline was as fast as New York City. And so when you have that mentality and you are in a place that most people maybe do have sands in their ear and want to retire and not kind of want to hustle, you definitely become uber successful.
Very interesting point. So, you already talk at double this, talk and move and operate at 2x speed, and moving over there puts you at 5x speed, basically.
True, but I'm just a regular guy when I go out to the East Coast. I'm only special on the West Coast.
Exactly. Something tells me you're still a notch above in New York, but that's fascinating. So what'd you do out of school? What was your first stop?
Yeah, so first stop was, actually before school, I was really lucky. So I used to wash cars to just get extra money. And I grew up in a small little town in San Diego called Scripps Ranch.
Okay.
And my neighbor worked for the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. And at the age of 16, everyone's actually younger, probably at the age of 15, I was kind of looking to see where can I go get a job somewhere. And while everyone was trying to search for a job, whether it was, serving tables or, I don't know, working at the bank or whatever kind of job to make some extra side money in the summers and things like that, I was lucky enough to get my first job at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies under Ron Evans' lab, which was, Johannes Salk's lab, the gentleman who, invented the polio vaccine.
Wow.
And so I had, between the ages of 16 and 20, 4 years of part-time work at the Salk Institute while I was pre-med at UC Irvine. And then I found out really quickly that, to be honest with you, I wasn't smart enough to go get a PhD or an MD. And I know that sounds really contradictory to my success, but at the time, I just could not get past my studies well enough to compete in that environment. But I was always extroverted. I had some natural talents in speaking, and I guess I was an okay salesman. And so I got into sales and marketing when I was 21 years old in the biotech world. And then I got into international business development at the age of 23 and a half. And then I became a biotech executive at the age of 26. And then I left the corporate world at the age of 28, landed my first startup called Ambri Genetics in genetic sequencing and testing, built the genomics division there. I was employee number 19, grew the company to 1,000 people, exited the company with $1 billion exit as senior vice president of the company, and selling that company to Konica Minolta and the Sovereign Fund of Japan. And during that time, fighting Myriad Genetics, which was another very large clinical diagnostic lab, in federal court, prevailing and opening up gene patents for the world. My mom was a breast cancer survivor, and so I was very motivated, by that mission. And I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Retired for 2.5 weeks, called my dad up, said, I'm coming back to the mainland, and I think I'm going to do Seekster. And he's like, Ardy, please, no, don't do it. I'm like, Dad, why? It's like, because I know if you're going to do it, you're going to go all in and you're never going to stop. Please, you and your wife have an amazing life. Just go and retire, relax. You had your exit, you're good. I'm like, Dad, it's not about that. I got to give back. And this is the first job that picked me. I didn't pick it, Mendel. And that's what's so special. I've been doing this for over 110,000 hours. Seekster is so personal to me because it also helped save my dad's life just recently by running a tumor board in 6 hours and getting all his medical data together, getting his non-invasive liquid biopsy test, getting his screening tests, getting his Cologuard a test from Exact Sciences, forming a longitudinal health record in real time, getting it all to Dr. Dan Van Hoff, the #1 pathologist at TGen in Arizona, who my co-founder was best friends with, and getting him in the surgery at Kaiser in 6 business days versus weeks, so that the cancer did not metastasize. And I know some folks have heard this story because I presented it, but when you do something long enough, you end up curing someone you know that you love. And my dad is not the only person in my family that Seekster has helped save their life.
Wow. Okay. So many follow-up questions, but I need to dig into the 2.5 weeks that you took off. What did you do in those 2.5 weeks?
Yeah. So went to Hawaii, and I thought that we were going to move there, and I just got fully bored.
Wow. So you made a bunch of money on the exit, right? In company.
I did.
And so you move out there.
What's important is no one wanted to invest in Seekster afterwards. I put the first $1 million in Seekster myself.
Oh, yeah? Wow. So you move to Hawaii, you try fishing, you try snorkeling, what'd you try to do? I'm trying to picture Ardy trying to relax in Hawaii.
Yeah. So, a lot of Mai Tais, and really just, going out on the longboard in the most beautiful beaches in the world, right?
Yeah.
Between Maui and Kauai, downtown Hanalei, Waimea Bay. I mean, amazing places, right? Pipeline. I'm not a good surfer of any sort, but what's amazing about Hawaii is you can suck at surfing and have a nice longboard and get up on a wave.
Yeah, fair enough. And so did you buy a place out there? You thought you were going to buy a place out there?
Yeah, so we thought that we were going to, and then we decided not to. And we said, you know what? It's just too slow. It was too slow for me. It's great to go visit. It's great to go during the holidays. It's great, Hawaii is amazing. I think it's one of the best places in the world. Definitely some of the best water in the world. But it was just missing culture. It was missing work. It was missing drive. It was too much relaxation. And I thought I was going to die.
And how old are you at this point?
I was 35-ish.
That's great.
35 and a half.
Wow. And then right after that, you started Seekster?
Yeah. So I went full in on Seekster at JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, really founded it January of 2016, running around with my green backpack and trying to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
And then we were in stealth for 2 years. We came out of stealth when Dr. Eric Topol made that famous tweet that got 7 million views. And then Bill Gates found out about us. And then Bill Gates called me up and wanted to meet. And then we spent some time with Bill one-on-one. And then it was Bill who told me, Ardy, we built Microsoft Health Vault and it looked like crap. It's not what Seekster is. Seekster is so much better. But please take this enterprise and make it an operating system. That's how you're going to be successful. So he gave me, to this day, the best advice.
Whoa, okay, 1 second. First of all, we got to take a step back because for all our listeners, what is Seekster?
Yeah, so Seekster is the Napster of health data sharing, and that's why I named it Seekster.
Okay.
So we're the leading healthcare technology company that breaks down health data silos at scale. We have an enterprise operating system that aggregates disparate health data sources into a single 360-degree patient view in real time. And that solves a multitude of challenges for life sciences, patient engagement, and data interoperability, Mendel.
So let's dig into the use case for patient engagement. Talk to me about that use case.
Yeah. So, imagine you have a clinical trial, right? And there's been millions of clinical trials run where patients are not engaged with their data because we give full ownership rights of data, both visually as well as on the data back end to patients. They're able to be engaged in their health, number one. Number two, via their consents, they're able to share any piece of data that they wish through our proprietary patient-mediated method of retrieving data from all these disparate data sources, whether it's coming from Mass General Hospital, connecting to Dana-Farber, to MD Anderson, to UCSD, to Stanford, to Emory, all across the country, right? As patients do, like my own father as an example. And the researchers can look at that data in a de-identified way, as well as engage those patients to go get more labs if needed, since they're seeing their data, as well as have a bi-directional exchange of communication. We created the first patient engagement platform for pharma, and that's why Takeda came and invested in us out of Kendall Square.
Fascinating. So you can basically, you have a de-identified patient data side of the business that people can look at and look at trends and train on and stuff like that. And then you've got the actual patient data side of it, where a patient can give consent for somebody to see their data through Seekster. So if I'm a patient, do I interact with Seekster?
Yeah, you interact with Seekster, but let's use Pfizer as an example. Pfizer white labels our technology operating system. They get a research portal where they're able to communicate and look at all the data from the patients. And they also launch, let's say, a patient registry fully white labeled from Seekster's end, both on the back end and the front end. Mm-hmm. And the patients are coming in now and they have a digital front door where they can collect their data, share their data, and connect all their data, whether that's their wearables, their Medtronic devices, their Dexcom blood glucose monitoring device, all their medical data, their sequencing, right, that they had maybe on, an ancestry test or some sort of breast cancer test or clinical diagnostic test, LabCorp test, Quest Diagnostic, whatever. We spent the first 5 years building that foundational interoperability engine.
Wow.
So that we can crack the nuts on the hardest problem in healthcare. And that's why just 2.5 weeks ago, you saw the news in March, end of March, Novartis and Multiple Sclerosis Society of America signed a 3-year deal with us. That's our 6th top 10 pharma company that has adopted our technology. Not only that, we have Fortune 5 companies that are utilizing our system for filling in data gaps from even the payer side. So I always talk about the 5 Ps that Seekster hits on. The patient, because we're a patient-centric interoperability technology that we invented. Pharma, and that's because pharma came in and invested our Series A and all that good stuff and built a lot of great stuff with McKinsey and Accenture with us. Payers, since we have amazing partnerships with some of the largest payers in the country. Providers, we have 99% coverage of 175,000 plus providers in the country. And then the last thing is the parents or the caregiver. And why I say that is because, it's not just patients that can collect their data. But if you take the example of, a parent that has, a rare disease child, they're the ones that are, the guardians until they're basically 18 years old, taking care of their children, number one, right? You just had a baby, right? So at the end of the day, imagine you can actually bring all of your newborns' data together to make sure that, she or he's getting the best care and the fastest care, no matter what happens.
It's like a centralized EHR that the patient owns, where I can connect, all right, I've got a chart at Geisinger, I've got a chart at Lehigh, I've got a chart at NYU, whatever, and I could bring that all together into Seekster, and I can own that, and I can choose to share and not share.
That's right. And we started out with the consumer first, Mendel. That's why it was so powerful. That's why folks as paramount as Bill Gates wanted to meet and understood us. But the problem is people don't really care about their health until they're sick. And I'm sure you've had this experience in your family. I've been in healthcare, digital health, genomics for the last 22 years, both in commercial and data science experience here.
Yeah.
And what is fascinating is even with all these great technologies, policy changes, 21st Century's Cures Act, CNS and ONC interoperability rules and guidelines, and telehealth and virtual care and COVID happening and all these things that have happened in my life and your life as adults, I still think people don't care about their health until they're sick. And so it's really hard to find the right use case to make people motivated to share data. However, once you do, it's amazing what you can do for healthcare, for patients, for researchers, for innovators, for physicians, for care coordination, for your own family, just like how I did.
So there's so many avenues we can go down, but something that I talk about very often, and first of all, this is fascinating because I've said, all right, so I agree with you very strongly that on a lot of things you said. First of all, about patients, we have to figure out how to make healthcare, and health risk the risk to you, as the patient, you should assume risk for your health because you're the one that would benefit and be harmed the most by your health, not the doctor or the value-based care organization or the payer or anyone else. You know what I mean? So that's number one. But I'm more curious about the red tape side of this. I mean, so you took 5 years, you laid down the infrastructure, and it sounds like you built, hundreds of opening points, connection points across the entire spectrum of health interoperability. I've said for a while now that I think HIPAA, I say it in kind of very strong terms, which obviously I don't mean in the extreme. The terms that I use are, HIPAA is a bit of a scam. And I say that because I very strongly believe that if you asked pretty much anyone 40 years and under, if they would sign off of HIPAA in exchange for a level of convenience of care that you would expect from 2024, I think everybody would do it because we're used to at this point, even our parents' generation took them a long, long time to feel comfortable putting a credit card in online. You know what I mean? A debit card, a credit card, things like that. That's basic for us. We trade privacy for convenience all day long in our shopping experiences, in our web history, in our browser story, all across the board. We do that. So why in healthcare is it any different, first of all? And the flip side is that it doesn't even do the job. All this convoluted locking up of data where in order for me to see a message, I have to log into something 6 different times and 4 different verification codes. And then I forgot my password and I got to reset it. And then I got to all that difficulty. At the end of the day, hacks happen all the time. Leaks happen all the time. It's not even like that. It's not even like it necessarily protects it. So how did you navigate that? I mean, especially, how did you navigate that? So this all leads to my theory being that it's really not about data protection. It's not about patient data protection. It's about data protection, which is the big boys want to lock down the data so that they can keep the market and make it really difficult for anybody else to do anything interesting. So how did you navigate that, and how did you manage to pull this off?
So we took a fintech approach, and I love what you just stated. 100% agree with you. There's a couple things I want to unravel with the onion that you placed. So, HIPAA, we're the P in HIPAA.
Okay.
So you're 100% right. HIPAA is kind of like a scam. But it's not if you have technology that allows patients to bring portability of their data. That's what's amazing about HIPAA, actually. But, the idea of it was amazing. But see, just because you make a law, it doesn't mean the technology's there. And that was where a law was ahead of the technology. I'll give you another example. We were CMS ONC 21st Century Cures Act compliant before Seema Verma and friends with the last administration pushed and came up with those rules in March of 2020 to give penalties to certain providers that are, not allowing patients to get their data, access rights to data, patient access rights to data, and things like that. Lastly, going back to the fintech approach, you're probably familiar, and I'm sure your audience is familiar with the mint.com for finances, where you bring.
I had the founder on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Aaron Patzer.
Yep.
Great guy.
So our lawyer, actually, from Paul Hastings, and also one of my first investors, did the deal for Mint with Intuit.
Nice.
And so I became really fascinated with the fact that no one really built a Mint for healthcare. And that's what we did at the beginning. And we invented the patient-mediated method the same way that you bring your Wells Fargo, Bank of America student loans and you see your net worth. So I did that personally. And after I made a little bit of coin for myself and my family, I didn't care about money. I cared about my net health. And so I became obsessed with wellness and thriving and wanting to, not live forever, because I don't want to live forever.
You're not Brian Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to die healthy.
Nice. I like that. By the way, conversely, first of all, what you're saying is fascinating. Now I'm able to, it's amazing what a good parable could do, because now I can totally picture what you've got going on at Seekster. Bit of a digression, but Intuit ended up totally killing the product. I mean, they just didn't keep it up, and now they just dumped it on Credit Karma has it now. It's gone.
That's right.
Over.
That's right. Yeah.
That's super recent though.
And for finance, this is what's really important for all the, amazing engineers and folks and the Health Trailblazers that come and listen to your amazing show. Working with zeros and ones is interoperable. It's very easy. But when you're working with Allscripts, Epic, Cerner, McKesson, Meditech, Practice Fusion, Athena Health, and 28 other EMRs, it is
a nightmare.
And I give all the credit, Mendel, to my amazing interoperability team and tech team in actually cracking that nut. And I'll tell you the magic there. It's just hard work. I've had one person leave the company since founding the company in 2016, when you have people at Amazon and Facebook and Instagram and Oracle and, wherever leave every 18 months. That's why.
How many employees are there now?
Can't get anything done.
How many people are on the team?
About 60, plus or minus some contractors.
Yeah. It's wild. That's wild.
We're not a big company, but I like to compare us to Navy SEALs.
Right.
We don't need a big army to take down a country. We have amazing data SEALs at Seekster that know how to solve the problem for healthcare. It doesn't matter if it relates to clinical trials, providers, value-based care, decision support systems, care coordination, or whatever. At the end of the day, Mendel, it's data that's not interoperable. We make it interoperable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. But it's just, even this week or last week, are you familiar? Have you been up to speed on the whole particle epic, back and forth? There's obviously.
I just saw the CNBC article that just came out.
Yeah. I mean, Epic, Epic turned off some of their connections, and Epic is supposedly claiming that they weren't, that Epic only really shares data if it's for some sort of clinical caring for the specific patient. There has to be a covered entity on the other end that's taking it to care for the patient, basically. And they were saying that essentially one side is saying that they were playing games with it and giving the data to other people. And Particle obviously says, no, I actually happen to know Troy somewhat well. I've hung out with him in person. He was on the podcast recently. And I was talking to him about doing some connections. And the first thing out of his mouth was, making sure, understanding that the technology that I was talking about connecting with is relevant to actually clinically caring for patients. And was like, if not, it's not even a starter. So in my personal experience, I'm going on public record saying that Particle has been incredible in that regard. But the flip side is that, Epic is being a bully, and Epic is known to bully, and Epic is known to not play nice, and Epic is known to, to essentially, when you're small enough, they try to make it impossible for you to get big. Once you're big, they'll just crush you or try to buy you or something like that. So that's the flip side to it, that these, that it's people don't really want to make it friendly. They don't want to make it easy. So I guess I'm still fascinated.
I'll tell you, look, all those companies have a certain retriever that they're getting data with, whether it's coming through an HIE or they're using some sort of third party. The difference with Seekster that makes it completely different technology is we don't rely on anyone other than the patient to bring your data. It's kind of like, when you show up to a party and they call it, what is it? Bring your own beer, BYOB.
BYOB.
Right? Well, yeah. I call it, in our world, BYOD. Bring your own data.
Dude, this is crazy, Ardy. Okay. Are you saying that I can show up, log into Seekster, and I could just log into my Geisinger portal and connect my chart? And Geisinger won't kick you out? Geisinger
exactly.
won't. And why would Geisinger kick you out, though?
Well, because why would Geisinger kick you out when you're getting into your portal and you're going to pay your bill? It's your data.
Yeah, but it's kind of like skip lag. Do you know? Have you heard of skip lag?
No, I haven't.
Whatever. It's in the flight industry.
But so here's the thing. We invented the patient-mediated method. It is a way harder method, but the value in Seekster is that we bring patients and we empower patients. We engage patients. The problem with all this other stuff that's been happening is that fact that they don't have.
So you never talked to Epic? You never had to talk to Epic? So you never had to talk to Epic directly?
No, we don't have to. In certain use cases, maybe our team has for certain stuff, right? Yeah. But, tomorrow, if we were part of the, Obamacare or whatever it's called, the Affordable Care Act now, whatever it's called, that's empowering, millions of patients across the country, or millions of members, actually, that's more politically correct, for, healthcare. If they had a button to, be able to bring their data together powered by Seekster, we can bring all the data together. Yeah. And it's not violating anything with Epic. It's not violating anything with Allscripts. It's actually the most compliant way.
Okay. Ardy, I have constructed in my mind, and I've said this multiple times, and you are the first person that seems to have executed on one of the big pieces here. I have constructed in my mind, granted, and I'm saying up front, I am by no means an industry expert, okay? But common sense, and based on the knowledge that I have, this is a, futuristic, not perfect, but very, very good health system that I think would drive costs really, really down, in my opinion. And before I say this, I'm going to say why. So I perceive it seems to me that the largest drivers of cost in healthcare is a couple things. It's administrative work, which essentially I fault to all the regulatory nature of data. So it's basically the data side, HIPAA, the whole data regulatory side.
Absolutely.
Right? The second is malpractice insurance. We love suing our doctors, and so they have to carry these massive, insurances that we end up paying for because they have to pass it on. It's a business, right? And the third thing is the pharmaceutical industry, right? So pharmaceutical, things are through the roof. So my vision of a system was exactly what you're describing Seekster is doing, where you create an EHR that essentially people opt out. I mean, not completely, but people essentially opt out of HIPAA and just say, hey, this is an EHR that I trust. Obviously, that doesn't mean that someone could just come in or you could sell my data. And obviously, but there's no need for an EHR, in my opinion. There's no need for my health data to be any more secure than my WhatsApp conversations. Like, I also don't want anyone stealing those just as much. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway.
Or and yet, pictures on your iPhone. I mean,
exactly. And yet I could open my phone I could open my phone and open WhatsApp and not have an issue, right? So the idea is step one, something like Seekster seems to be doing, where you have the system that basically I could sign off of, get rid of your regulation. I allow the system to be super friendly and be, that's first of all. Second of all, all the patients sign some sort of, document that there's a cap on litigation. So you can't sue a doctor more than $50,000 or $100,000, something like that, done. No more 50, 60, 70, $80 million lawsuits, done.
Yeah, crazy.
And then the third thing is then the health system that would be part of this would practice purely value-based care, which would be part of it. And then you have something like what Mark Cuban's working on. He's been on the podcast as well with cost plus drugs. And so you've got, those are the pieces that I think could create a really, and the only way to fund it would be through employers. You can't go to the government for that, obviously, because it's completely contrary to what they're trying to do. But Seekster seems to be the closest thing to that first data point that I've talked about. So that's cool.
Look, we've built that technology. It is deployed with major, enterprises. We're talking, $100 billion plus market cap enterprises being the lowest, smallest companies that we're working with, right? We have whale customers that understand exactly what you stated and are using it for their particular use cases. I think one thing that you said that's so important is that, it's not just the technology, it's more the process. And you were kind of getting to that. And what I mean about the process is the process involves how do people know about it, number one. Number two, what's the marketing behind it? Because that's very expensive. And then number three is obviously them being engaged. What's amazing about our system is that if any government entity or any type of entity that's listening to your wonderful show wants to utilize our technology, they can launch it in 72 hours with a full white label. Wow. And patients own the data. We don't own the data. Patients own the data. And then they consent to share the data if that use case makes sense for them. We have lots of different modules that we created, obviously, because of our customers. We can run certain queries on the database, right? But what I think is really missing is the fact that people don't understand how timely a technology like Seekster is. People in the industry understand, but I think there's a lot of red tape still and bureaucracy, as you said earlier on the show, that stops folks from actually bringing innovation within their circle.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest barrier. The biggest barrier, I've been doing this for almost 9 years.
Wow.
Why am I doing it? 1, I'm successful doing it. 2, I love it. 3, it's helped my family. And I could never imagine doing anything else that's solving a bigger problem in healthcare. And I'm young enough with a lot of energy to still do this. Right. I feel like I'm, 21 still.
Yeah. Yeah. You sound it and feel it too. Well, Ardy, this has been, we can chat for hours, but this has been really fun. Where can people find out more about Seekster and more about you?
Yeah, look, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So in the podcast post, you can put my LinkedIn and you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably best. If you want to find more about Seekster, just go to www.seekster.com. And everyone is seeking health data. It doesn't matter if you're a provider, a payer, a pharma company, a parent, or, a patient. So thank you so much for having me, Mendel.
Awesome. And I just have to point out, awesome license plate. I see it above you. Very cool. And all right, this has been fun. Look forward to seeing you. I know we're going to be doing a conference together in a couple months, so look forward to seeing you there. And until then, this was fun. Thanks.
I can't wait. Thanks so much, Mendel.